time being, it's impossible for me to take my family back to the UK safely. Well, for a start, the only time that I've come back to the UK is...
The palace did not simply close its doors. In this dramatized account, it allegedly delivered the ultimate blow. Harry Sussex identity was stripped away, Meghan was barred from Britain, and King Charles was forced into an agonizing choice between his crown and his son. There was no ceremony. No public announcement. No warning. Behind the sealed doors of Buckingham Palace, a document reportedly sat on the table like a weapon. Prince William was seated opposite King Charles while senior advisors watched in silence. For years, the conflict surrounding Harry and Meghan had created one fracture after another. But now, according to this fictionalized scenario, every remaining possibility for reconciliation appeared to have been exhausted. The Duke of Sussex title was more than a name. It represented one of Harry's final official links to the institution he had walked away from. Removing it would transform a deeply personal family conflict into something brutally formal. But the alleged decision went even further. Meghan would supposedly be permanently prevented from entering the United Kingdom. Charles lowered his eyes toward the document. He picked up the pen, then stopped. Was this royal duty? Or was a father about to make a decision that would look like revenge? Thousands of miles away in California, Harry opened the message. He read it once. Then again. For a moment, he appeared to be hoping the words might somehow change. They didn't. Harry placed the phone face down as Meghan watched. She immediately understood that this was bigger than a royal title. Britain represented ceremonies, memories, history, family, and an entire chapter of their lives. Now, that chapter appeared to have been locked behind a border. Back at Buckingham Palace, Charles finally signed. A courier stepped forward, but the king kept one hand on the folder for several long seconds before finally releasing it. William did not celebrate. Harry did not respond. Meghan stared at the language that had supposedly changed her future. The order looked sudden, but the wounds beneath it were anything but new. Years of resentment, failed attempts at reconciliation, broken trust, competing loyalties, and private bitterness had allegedly been building toward this moment. Long before titles became weapons and borders became barriers, four people had been trapped inside the same family crisis. Charles wanted peace without weakening the monarchy. William believed loyalty had to come with consequences. Harry wanted freedom without permanent exile. And Meghan wanted distance from palace life without Britain being erased from her future. Later, after the room had emptied, Charles reportedly opened a drawer and pulled out an old photograph of Harry and William together. It showed them before either brother could have imagined how dramatically their lives would eventually diverge. Charles stared at the photograph. Then he placed it back. The king had signed the order. He highlighted everything. And deleted it. Meghan followed him and asked whether he intended to fight. Harry said nothing. And that silence pointed toward what may have been the real breaking point, one final private meeting at Windsor. The meeting was supposed to determine how Harry and Meghan would deal with the monarchy going forward. Instead, according to this dramatized scenario, it became the moment when trust finally collapsed. Charles asked for restraint. William demanded confidentiality. Harry saw control where his family saw protection. A proposed agreement would have required private negotiations and family disputes to remain confidential. But Harry believed signing it would mean surrendering his ability to speak about his own experiences. He pushed the document away. Charles remained trapped between two sons, one demanding freedom, the other demanding protection for the institution. Nobody truly won that day. But something inside the family appeared to die. Afterward, the question inside the palace allegedly changed. It was no longer simply, how do we manage the distance? It became, should the distance become permanent? When Harry eventually faced Charles again, the possibility of losing the Sussex designation was already hanging between them. And Meghan's future access to Britain had reportedly become part of the same discussion. Harry believed the institution was trying to erase the life he had built. Charles believed his son had forced him into an impossible choice between paternal love and royal responsibility. William was deliberately kept away from the meeting, apparently to prevent another confrontation from exploding. Harry argued that stripping away Sussex would accomplish nothing. It would not heal the family. It would not restore trust. And it would only prove that leaving royal duties had ultimately cost him his place within the institution. Charles answered with a devastating accusation. Trust had disappeared. Those words carried years of history. The unsigned agreement. Private conversations. Broken expectations. And repeated suspicions. Harry demanded to know why Meghan should face permanent exclusion if the dispute was supposed to concern his relationship with the monarchy. Charles reportedly stiffened. The crisis, he said, had moved beyond private reconciliation. Then came the dossier. According to the fictionalized account, failed agreements, ceremonial disputes, private negotiations, and unsuccessful attempts to define the Sussex relationship had all been gathered into one file. To Charles, it represented a pattern. To Harry, it transformed years of personal pain into evidence against him. Harry stood and accused his father of closing the door. Charles answered that the door had been opened repeatedly. Then came silence. Cold. Deliberate. Devastating. Harry walked away believing his father had chosen the crown. But even then, the alleged decision could not simply become reality overnight. Constitutional advice, government concerns, ceremonial procedures, and palace processes would all have to be considered. Advisors reportedly separated the proposed consequences into two parts. Harry would lose the Sussex designation. Meghan would face permanent exclusion from Britain. Charles reportedly asked whether temporary restrictions could accomplish the same goal. But advisors warned that temporary measures could simply reopen negotiations and prolong the uncertainty. William, according to the dramatized scenario, refused to demand the harshest possible outcome. Instead, he told Charles that the monarch and the father would ultimately have to live with whatever decision was made. Charles removed the temporary proposal. Then he placed the permanent order inside the final folder. The consequences supposedly followed quickly. Palace correspondence changed. Ceremonial lists were adjusted. Seating plans were revised. Internal briefings were updated. Web references were altered. A family dispute had allegedly been transformed into an official reality. When Meghan read the final paragraph, she reportedly asked whether the restriction would apply during family emergencies. Harry's answer was devastating. Everything. Weddings. Funerals. Illnesses. Private crises. Every future return to Britain could potentially mean Harry entering alone while Meghan remained thousands of miles away. No private exception could be guaranteed. No desperate phone call could simply unlock the barrier. Harry later removed an embossed Sussex folder from a cabinet. He stared at the crest. Then placed it back. He was furious. But he still wasn't ready to let go. Harry drafted several responses. One was controlled. Another was far more aggressive. William reportedly asked only one question. How was his father coping? A fictional newspaper headline declared. The final break. Beside the palace gates, a handwritten card offered a much simpler message. Families should never reach this point. In California, Harry and Meghan watched the unfolding reaction without releasing their statement. Charles did not reverse course. William did not intervene. And later, Charles returned to the old photograph inside his drawer. He touched it, but did not remove it. Harry eventually opened the Sussex folder one final time. Inside was a family photograph. He saved the photograph, then placed the empty folder into storage. That distinction said everything. Harry could release the designation without erasing the people connected to it. Meghan watched silently as the palace secured its authority and the couple supposedly surrendered one of their final formal links to royal life. But the biggest question remained unanswered. Had the monarchy finally ended the war? Or had it simply created a wound that would return the next time the family faced a wedding, a funeral, an illness, or another royal crisis? Because sometimes, the most dangerous royal battles are not the ones fought in public. They are the ones that end in silence.